Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of Dead Creepy Podcast. I'm your host, Claire Barrand, and with me is my sister and co-host, Linzi Smith. Hi, Linzi.
Hello.
Hello. We have had the most fantastic weekend, haven't we?
Oh, we absolutely have. Have you recovered yet?
I've caught up on my sleep. It did take 2 days to recover. I think I'm feeling my age now.
Yeah, it was absolutely action-packed, wasn't it? 2 late nights and lots of information to take in.
That's right, let alone all the running back and forth to our cabins was a 15 to 20 minute sort of walk, carrying all our equipment with us.
True,
so
yes.
I think I've developed a few muscles, which isn't a bad thing.
Yes, we did quite a bit of walking.
We did. So if you don't know what we're talking about by now, we are talking about Sage Paracon 2017, which just took place this weekend, which was held at Warwick Castle in the UK, a fantastic medieval castle. We, as Dead Creepy Podcast, were honoured to be the official broadcasters. So we got to interview the guest speakers, privileged position to be able to do that. So thank you to the organiser, MJ Dixon, for asking us to be the official broadcasters.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure and an honour.
It has. It really has indeed. And it was just such an amazing atmosphere.
Oh, it was. I think every single person there, and there must have been at least 60 guests there, had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
And you could just feel it. The weekend kicked off with a investigation of the castle. So Friday night, we had an investigation of the whole castle, just for the Sage Paracon. There was nobody else around. There was a security guard sat in a room somewhere. But apart from that...
Yes, there was nobody else living around.
Well, that's very true. Because we know that there were other people around that were not living, because they made themselves known to us, didn't they?
They did.
And what was surreal, it was absolutely surreal, wasn't it, that we were investigating with some of the most visible people in the paranormal field. So we had John Zaffis. He was investigating with us, and he has over 43 years of experience studying and investigating the paranormal. And of course, his aunt and uncle were Ed and Lorraine Warren, king and queen of the paranormal. So John was with us for part of the evening. We sort of went round in teams, so there were teams of 9. So we all had a really nice private group with each guest speaker. We had Brian Jay Cameo, who's been in the TV programme Scared and Haunted Collector. And we were in the canon room with Brian, weren't we, Linzi?
We were, yeah.
And we picked up a really good EVP.
Yes, we did. That was good.
It said Dark Secret.
It did.
A male voice.
It did. And so we ran with that EVP and did some divination, asking questions to try and get a bit more information.
That's right. So we suspect it was somebody who had lived at the castle. His name has escaped my mind completely.
I can't remember the details.
I can't, but he was murdered basically in London. He was brought back to the castle and they plugged his wounds up with pig fat and he died of an infection. Funny that, isn't it? But he had a dark secret, which we believe was that he never married. He died in his 30s, but he did have a manservant that he was very close to. And apparently, did he leave his money to the manservant?
There was clearly a relationship there that at the time would have been very controversial.
That's right. Yes. So we had Jeff Belanger from Ghost Adventures.
We did.
Was investigating with everybody. What a great man he is.
He's so much fun.
He really is. He's so nice and amiable and approachable as well.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, well, you think, oh, it's Jeff Belanger, he's going to be this big, huge star, and he doesn't come across like that at all.
Do you know what? I have to say that about all of them. They all just got really stuck in. They were in the middle of all the crowds. They just, they were just really amiable and just part of it, and they genuinely seemed to be having a brilliant time.
They did.
It wasn't like, oh, I've been paid to turn up, I'll do my bit. They were really happy to be there. It really came across.
It really did. So we got to interview all the guest speakers apart from Dr. David Parry and, unfortunately, Russel Edwards. They came on Sunday, which was the final day of the Paracon, and things were just behind schedule, and we just did not get the time. It was very, very busy, but we were lucky enough to listen to both of their talks, and they were both incredibly interesting speakers.
They really were.
And I was totally taken and blown away by Russel Edwards' talk.
Yes.
Russel Edwards, you were as well. We both kept exchanging glances in like absolute disbelief at what we were hearing. It was just unbelievable. For anyone who doesn't know, he's a Ripperologist. Not only is he an expert on Jack the Ripper, the serial killer, but he also is the man who has produced the definitive evidence that proves the identity of this world's most famous murderer, Jack the Ripper. He talked to us about how that happened, the story of how he managed to prove without a shadow of a doubt who the identity of Jack the Ripper is. And I'm not going to spoil it.
No.
For anybody, I want you to go and buy Russell's book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got a copy right here, which has been signed by the man himself. And it's called Naming Jack the Ripper by Russel Edwards. So please get onto Amazon and buy a copy of that book. You will not regret it. I cannot wait to start reading it. So yeah, we were very lucky. So I'll tell you what we should say just before we get on with the first interview. We were at Paracon. Anybody who's been to Paracons know that it's very busy and there's a lot of people milling around and talking. So we did the best we could. So please bear in mind that we were doing our absolute best with the audio, and we did it for you guys. We got in there and we asked the questions that you wanted us to ask. So bear with us. I would recommend you listen with headphones and just pretend you're there. So don't be worried about the noise in the background. They told us some fantastic stuff. So let's introduce the first speaker that we spoke to, which was John Zaffis.
Everything's locked. It's no fun.
There's always rooms that you want to go in, and they probably just used as storage.
Just to see. Yeah, I just want to see it.
Have you picked up energies and things whilst you've been going around?
Not really so much picking up the energies, just as much as going back in time. You just think about, wow, what it was like back then, you know?
Yeah, the history of it all. Okay, well, welcome to Dead Creepy Podcast, John Zaffis.
Thank you for
coming to talk to us.
You're welcome.
And also welcome to the UK. I gather you've not been over here for quite a few years.
30 years. Wow. First time in 30 years. Yep.
Fantastic.
And MJ drove me crazy till I came over.
We're so glad you did. And we really enjoyed your talk yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
It was very interesting, question and answer session.
It was. I enjoyed it too because it made me think a little because it was different questions than the normal ones.
Some very interesting questions been put to you, haven't there? Yeah. Well, talking of questions, we asked our listeners yesterday, we said we'd hopefully get a chance to talk to you today, and if they had anything they would like us to ask you. So we have had a question, haven't we?
Right. This is a question from Kathy Denver. She said, "You're second on my people in the paranormal I'd most like to meet list. Hi, Mr. Zaffis. I'm curious. What is the worst item you have ever brought home to go in your museum? And have you ever come across something so ingrained and so dark that you'd rather than bring it home, you've had to have it put away?"
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to say what. I don't really have a favorite item because they all have such unique stories. And they have a lot of different things that are associated with them. Have there been items I haven't brought back to the museum? Yes. Now, what do I do with those? A lot of times I throw them in a body of water, or I will bury them. So that way the energy gets contained and it doesn't cause any more problems. So there has been quite a few things I've never brought back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Disposed of them, yep.
In the UK, somebody recently in a paranormal team bought a haunted item. It was a haunted doll. He's a collector as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen this doll, but somebody has mentioned that you have the same doll in your collection.
Actually, I do.
So do you recognise this doll, and what can you tell? We'd love to know her story, because he's bought the same doll.
Okay, you have to remember, there's so many things. A lot of times I have to think about it for a few seconds. With, if I remember, it was a bride doll, and a woman collected bride dolls. And she purchased this one, and she had a lot of different things occurring where she had the dolls. And she would notice that the bride doll would be moved to different areas. So she just got totally creeped out over the whole thing. She gave me a call and she just told me she wanted me to take it out. So I had taken it out. But it's so funny you're showing this, because I had seen it, I think it was on Facebook, or I saw it on something, and I went, oh wow, look at that. I got the same one downstairs in the museum.
Well, isn't that interesting? So the same
doll,
but she's been reproduced clearly.
Yeah.
So have you heard of that before? That the same item, like a picture painting, for example, like the crying boy.
The crying boy.
Seem to have same.
Yeah. There's several different ones. There's a little girl also in a reproduced painting that people pick up. It's the what do they call it? The folk art, the folk art that they create, and it was in several different places in the New England area, and 2 bed and breakfasts that I had investigated had picked it up, and they had them in the rooms that started having major hauntings, and both different places I had to remove them. Yeah.
Why is that? How can that be possible, that it's 2 totally separate items, but they look the same?
I think sometimes, again, too, it makes absolutely no sense. It's not the original, so you would think, why would that particular item? Sometimes I think it has to do with the people more than anything else, than just the item itself. So, again, this one woman that was totally restoring this 1 bed and breakfast, and she had picked it up, and it was the little girl standing there, and she put it in the room. People were complaining. She took it out, it stopped, and she put it back in again, and it started again. And she said, come over here and just take this stupid thing. I don't even want to deal with it anymore.
Wow.
But why would certain reproduction type things have energy attached to it? Like I said, sometimes I don't necessarily think it's the item. I think it's more the people than anything else that causes that energy and the recognition given that could cause the disturbance,
So do the items in your museum, do they behave themselves once they're at
the
museum?
I don't have too much paranormal activity, but people that do go into my barn, which is the museum, they experience things. They have a lot of things going on. Sometimes people walk near certain areas and start telling me stories about the item that I haven't really talked about. So I get intrigued by that.
That's
so I'll be like, okay, there's no way for you to even know that story or know what that's associated with. So again, that tells me, some people can't pick up on stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think with certain items like that doll, it could go to one owner one day and nothing would ever happen because that person either doesn't recognise that it was meant to be haunted in the first place, because obviously the guy that's bought this knows that it's got this attachment to it, or that you can kind of overrule it by not giving it your power. So you can say, well, I don't care that haunted boy is supposed to be haunted. I will have that picture in my house and nothing will happen. Be quite confident nothing will happen, and then it won't. So.
Well, again, too, looking at it as power of suggestion.
Yeah.
That's the way I could look at something like that. But again, too, I've seen people buy known haunted items because they wanted to see if something was going to happen, and nothing happens.
Right.
So again, is it the power of suggestion? Is it the person that has the item at a certain time? Sometimes we just can't quite figure it out. What triggers it or what causes it to happen. So it's kind of bizarre and kind of crazy.
Do you think spirits that have passed, are attached to certain items?
Yes.
So it's literally
Yeah,
It's not
I
the
think a
item
lot of the
that's haunted,
items definitely could have that energy from a spirit, from an individual attached to it. You know, like a piece of jewelry or a piece of furniture. And I find a lot of times that these things can have something attached to it because they had certain meaning to a person. So therefore, sometimes their energy will linger with it. You touch it, all of a sudden that energy can activate it. So that's how I look at this.
Well, Linzi and I grew up, and our parents were antiques dealers, so we grew up living above the shop, which was full of artifacts and ancient things. And we were allowed to go down in the evenings if they had a big dapple grey rocking horse, I remember in particular, or a doll's house. We would be allowed to play with those things, and some of the things just had a bad vibe to them, didn't they?
Yeah.
We remember that as a child. There'd be sometimes we wouldn't want to be in the shop. And we didn't realise as children why that might be, but obviously now we're interested in the paranormal. It's possible we were picking up on the energies of those of items.
Sure.
And then once they've been sold,
that was
then
like
we were fine to go back
like
in
that
the
old
shop.
saying, kids in a candy store with the paranormal.
That's right.
Yeah?
Oh, interesting. Well, and our mum used to deal with jewellery, antique jewellery, and she had a ring that she would wear, a Victorian ring, and she swore that every time she wore it, she felt really sad and depressed, and so she sold it on. And again, she wasn't suggesting there was anything paranormal about it, just that I can't wear that ring. There's something about it that just makes me feel.
Oh, you hear that a lot of times,
upset.
yeah? Especially with jewelry. People will pick up, the necklaces or the rings or bracelets, and they'll put it on and they feel doom and gloom and they just don't feel good, and they don't necessarily believe in all the paranormal, but they go, oh, I don't want to get jinxed, I don't want anything to happen, I'm not wearing that anymore, I'm getting rid of it. People just have it where it's not necessarily paranormal, but they're afraid they might get some bad luck or something from an item. I've seen that several times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that could be just down to superstition, I guess.
Yeah.
But then other times somebody might unwittingly wear something and not realise, and something happens, or they become ill, or they become depressed, and that could be a genuine attachment to the item.
You stop and think about that too. When I just would be so intrigued over all the crown jewels, just to see. I mean, stop and think about all the some of the tragedies and the things and the energies that could be attached to that stuff. I wonder if it really triggers anything.
How cool would that be?
Yeah.
That they'd let you go in and spend an afternoon with the crown jewels and just seeing.
Oh, I don't think the Queen will ever allow that one. I would do it just for the sake of, just that curiosity of knowing, can we pick anything up around these things? And
that would make an amazing show, wouldn't it?
Oh my
See,
gosh.
if Buckingham Palace would let John Zaffis go in and do a show there. That would be so cool.
I can hear the Queen now. John Zaffis, who? No. He's talking about ghosts? No, I don't think so.
We'll see what we can arrange.
We've got connections.
No, we've got connections. Yeah. Well, John, thank you very much.
Well, thank
for
you very
talking
much.
to us.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope you don't leave it another 30 years before you come back to the UK.
I cannot do that. I have to come back over the pond
I think
next year, hopefully.
Warwick Castle is calling you back,
Please
definitely.
sign up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What an interesting guy.
Yeah, he was really great.
I'm so glad we asked him about that haunted doll, the bride doll. We asked John Zaffis about the haunted doll that a British collector has managed to purchase, didn't we?
Yeah, it was nice to see his face when we showed him the picture.
Yeah, that's right. It's another piece to the jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Also managed to get a fantastic interview with Brian Jay Cameo.
We did.
So Brian and John obviously know each other. They work together.
Yes.
They've both been on The Haunted Collector. So this is the interview with Brian.
Very technical.
Ooh. at knife point.
Brian CANO, welcome to Dead Creepy Podcast.
Oh, well, thank you guys. It's nice to be here.
And how are you enjoying the weekend so far at Sage Paracon?
You know, I've been to England before. I've been traveling the world this year on my Once More Around the Block world tour. And for me, coming back to the UK and being here at Warwick Castle is just a dream come true. I mean, what person, and especially what boy, when he's growing up, didn't want to come to a castle and just experience all the things that it has to offer. And in between the great things here at Sage Paracon, I've been wandering the grounds and doing the sights and just really soaking it in, and I'm having a great time.
It's a real fairy tale castle, isn't it?
It is. I'm 10 years old all over again. All I need is a wooden sword and a shield, and we're ready to go.
That's fantastic. Well, we posted on our Facebook page this morning to see if any of our listeners had any questions that they'd like us to ask you, because we've only got a short time to speak to you, so we thought we'd ask our listeners, and we did get a question.
We did.
Linzi, you go ahead.
She says, "Hey, why the heck have you not got your own show? Seriously? And you've been in many countries investigating now. Which would you say is the most active, and which is the most active with negative spirit?"
That was from Kathy Denver in Ireland.
Okay, Kathy, that's a great question. But yeah, I mean, I've been traveling the world. This more than any other year in my 15 years of doing the work has been my international tour, such as it is. And I've seen Ireland, parts of the UK. I just came back from a 3-week tour in Australia. And yeah, I probably should have my own show, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Let's get that going.
I noticed you didn't mention Wales. Have you ever investigated?
I've never been to Wales. Not
we'll
yet.
have to change that.
Not yet. Yes. Well, what do you think about people from Wales? There's a little last night's EVP humor, guys. But it's difficult to pin down one place or one location that is the hot spot. If you think of the universe and you think of our planet as a living web, just a undulating, vibrating mass, there's no one spot that trumps the other as the mecca of activity. I feel like anytime there's human activity, any place there is life, you will have that parallel of the afterlife. You'll have this other dimension. You'll have this other brain that's very close to ours, and every now and then it touches, and we get a glimpse of that other reality. So there's no country. It's the afterlife, the other side, whatever you want to term it, is not bound by political borders. And I always tell this to investigators: we're the ones who are forced to travel. Get on a plane, get on a bus, get in a car, travel to these sites and locations. Spirit, they don't need to. With a thought, the energy, they're there. They can come to us. So while we have to go to them sometimes, or actually you can even bring them to you. A famous example I use in America, the Lizzie Borden house. A lot of people go there to experience this infamous double murder and ask questions and really relive the events that happened there. But if you really wanted to talk to Lizzie Borden, and if she were game, you could do it wherever you are.
Fantastic. And what can Sage Paraconers look forward to in your talk this weekend?
It's gonna be. I'm
without giving any spoilers away.
I'm the closing act for Sage Paracon. I'm the last lecturer on Sundays, so I've got a tough act to follow. I mean, John Zaffis, Jeff Belanger, Robert Murch, these guys. Let's just say they're my opening act. No, seriously. I've been talking about something I call paralosophy. And what that is a phrase, a word that I've coined that's a mashup of paranormal and philosophy. And while a lot of people are preoccupied with the hows, how to do things, how to investigate, I used to lecture about that. Now I want people to think about the why. Why? Why do we do what we do? Why do we do it the way we do it? In the 100 or so years of recent investigations that have been going on, nothing has changed. We've gotten no further. We have more devices, we have more blinking lights, but we have not advanced our theories. We have not advanced our methods of doing things. So I want people to slow down and think more and do less. This is a marathon, guys. We're not going to solve the paranormal this weekend or next weekend. It's really a lifelong thing. So I can't even take credit for the credo. I stole it from carpentry. Measure twice, cut once.
Right.
And that's my message for the paranormal community. That's what I want to engender them with my talks. And during my lecture, we're going to be covering some philosophical ground, so that when they leave the room, when they leave the castle, when they leave maybe the country, they're going to be thinking, I hope this resonates with everyone, and they're going to be thinking about, and every time they ask why, maybe they'll come back with an answer that we can all benefit from, and that's my goal.
Fantastic. Do you think we're getting too hung up on technology when we're going into an investigation? Do you think we're getting too obsessed with gadgets and gizmos and flashing lights and noises? Do you think we should strip back and go back to basics and just use our senses more?
There's a bell curve of investigating techniques. When you first start out, you start at the bottom. You don't have a lot of money or experience, so you don't have a lot of tech. Then as you get serious, you join a team, you watch the shows, you see what they're using, you gear up, and you get tons and tons of equipment, and you get to an investigation. It takes you 2 hours to set up because you have all the latest gear, and you're spending so much time looking at the gear, you're missing the things that are happening right in front of you. Then you come down the other side of that bell curve, and you end up showing up with just a recorder, a millimeter, whatever fits on your belt. I mean, personally, I have a web belt. I look like Batman in the dark with my utility belt. And your 5 senses, your 6th sense, your 7th sense, which is common sense, which more investigators need to utilize. And I guess to answer your question, I feel that yes, it's easy to get distracted by tech, but I love tech. On Haunted Collector, I was the tech guy. But you have to know why you're using it. I use it to collect data. I use it to collect information that I will use to try to hammer down some theories. Maybe the average investigator feels like, oh, I need this gear to be relevant. I need this gear to be professional. It's a means to an end, not necessarily the end itself. And that's where I think the distraction comes in. So if you're waving around a meter but you don't know how to use it, that's not helping anybody. So I feel if you are going to use the equipment, know how to use it inside and out.
Yes. That's a really good answer to the question. During your filming, has there ever been a location that you felt frustrated to leave because you've been so busy with the filming and all of that goes on with that you've not felt that you've spent enough time there and you want to go back? Is there one particular location that you'd think, I didn't spend enough time there, I could have got more, I really want to go back and do that again but without the film crew?
During Haunted Collector, we split our time between public places and private homes pretty much 50-50. But the larger public venues, Preston Castle, St. Albans Asylum, these were such large places that, you would watch the show, the team would get divided. John would go, all right, guys, let's split up. Brian, you get in the basement. Okay, I've seen basements all over the United States. I've been under houses, in tunnels, and in crawl spaces and attics that I feel I missed a lot of the above ground architecture and history. So I would love to go back to some of those spots. And I think just in general, when you're investigating, there's a tendency to have tunnel vision, where you're so focused on looking for that activity that you're ignoring a lot around you. And I've, especially this year, made a concerted effort to really, whatever country I go to, I stop to smell the roses. I make sure that I experience the culture and the food and just the life. I love sunshine. I love daytime. We're paranormal investigators, but believe me, I prefer daytime better because that's where the life is.
We don't all sleep in coffins,
no.
Like some people think we might do. Yes.
No. Your blurb says that you started out as a skeptic. So was there a defining moment, a piece of activity or something that switched you, or was it more a mental, gradual shift?
By the time I started investigating seriously, when I was a child, no child is a skeptic. Every child is an open book. Every child believes in everything, and I was one of them. So much so that I was too afraid to do the Bloody Mary challenge in the mirror, just in case. I didn't know what would happen, but I wasn't going to tempt fate. So, growing up, I had gotten very skeptical and very jaded to the point where I considered myself a total skeptic. I had a crisis of faith. I was raised Catholic, but I was no longer practicing, so I had really no foundation to fall upon. So it was 2002. We started doing a cable access show on Staten Island called Scared on Staten Island, and I was a skeptic. It was my job to find the logical and rational explanations for the reports of activity. Now, in all the years I've been doing this, in the past 15 years, I consider each experience like a grain of sand. By itself, seemingly inconsequential, it's not going to change your life, you drop it on the floor. And as you keep going about, all of a sudden you look down and you're standing on a beach. All those grains of sand that have accumulated. So it wasn't one experience per se, it was the collected total experiences that made me look down, and I was forced to reconsider, to alter. And while I'm still skeptical, I consider myself a skeptical believer. I know the phenomenon exists. I've experienced it. I've witnessed it. I know people who can fill in those gaps. It's the people who report it that I'm skeptical of.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Yeah. And as you go forward, you'll keep collecting and growing more and more and adding more of those.
Yeah, who knows where I'm going to be in 15 years. I might go back to being a skeptic and saying, I was wrong. And I think that's important for people to understand. Labels bind you, and that's what I'm going to contradict that by labeling myself as a scientist. Because if you're a skeptic or you're a believer, there's a tendency to try to defend that stance no matter the cost.
Yeah.
A scientist will take in the data trying to prove a theory. If that theory proves out to be wrong or there's contradictory data, you're forced to recalculate and go a different way. So today the sky is blue, but if something happens tomorrow that I find out the sky is actually red, the data will bear that out, and I then have to. It's okay for me to go pull a 180 and say something different. It's not that I've abandoned my beliefs. I'm just going with the new data and rolling with that. And I feel that's what I did when I went from a skeptic to a skeptical believer. I was forced to accept all these things that I was learning, and I struggled with it. I really did, and I hold it akin to the stages of loss. I learned about EVPs. I learned about ITC. I learned about the time stream group. I wrestled with it. I didn't understand it. I couldn't accept it. So there was denial. There was bargaining. And eventually I got to acceptance. And now that's just part of me. And then the next thing that comes along, I will probably go through those same stages.
And where can our listeners get more of your work? Where can they buy your books, DVDs?
For all things Brian Jay Cameo, Scared and Haunted Collector, you can go to neverstopsearching.com. It's a newly redesigned site. You just click on the button that interests you. You can watch old Scared videos from my old group. You can click on the 3 Pillars logo, which is my card game. You can click on the Paralosophy icon, which tells you all about this movement I'm trying to put forward about doing less and thinking more. And you write it and you get me.
Fantastic. We'll definitely check that out, and we'll put all the links to that on our Facebook page and on all our websites and podcast links. So thank you ever so much for giving us some of your time during this very busy weekend.
Thank you, ladies. I hope to see you at my lecture.
Yes, definitely. We're not going to miss that, I promise you.
Good.
I promise. And then when we got our drive back home to Wales.
And were you going to look around and see where I should come?
I think so. Yeah, we're never going to run out of places to investigate in Wales. We've got castles, we've got everything there. So you've definitely got to come down to.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you ever so much.
Oh, thank you.
Goodbye.
So that was Brian Jay Cameo talking to Dead Creepy Podcast.
Yeah.
So Brian was there and he had a stall as well, didn't he? And he was
yeah.
selling, he's created a paranormal card game called
right.
The 3 Pillars. It simulates an investigation, and it includes many figures in the field on the cards themselves. So yeah,
That's
that was
pretty cool. Yeah, we should have played that.
I'm a bit gutted we didn't buy that now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wonder where we can get it from. Well, we're just going to have to go next year, aren't we?
If you're
and buy it
listening,
next
Brian,
year.
please can you send us one?
We'll do a free review for you, Brian.
Yeah.
We'll play the game and we'll do a review.
We could have a whole podcast of the game.
We could, couldn't we? I wonder how many players it needs. We've just been so busy.
Maybe you can play it over Skype.
Yeah! That would be good fun. Right, well, we should do that. We so should do that. He was talking about a phrase that he'd coined as well during his talk, which is paralosophy, which is this term he uses, and it's a mashup of paranormal and philosophy.
Yes.
So that was a very interesting talk. So thank you for talking to Dead Creepy, Brian, and we look forward to meeting you again. And he genuinely said keep in touch, and he's even followed us on Twitter, which is brilliant. Yay! Right, so I'm going to introduce to you a lady that we're absolutely thrilled to meet. Her name is Claire Hinks, and Claire is a very, very talented psychic medium, and she's been communicating with spirits since the age of 14. And I think it was Claire's first Paracon, so she was a little bit nervous, but do you know what? She had no reason to be at all, did she? Because she was fantastic.
She really was. She was really natural, and very. Yeah, she made you feel comfortable.
She did.
Yeah.
So this is our chat with Claire.
So, Claire, welcome to Dead Creepy Podcast and Sage Paracon 2017. How are you enjoying the weekend so far?
I've had a great time. It's been really, really good experience. Met some lovely people, famous people, public people, lots of people. It's been great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It's been a great atmosphere, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
And you've still yet to do your demonstration?
Yes,
that you're
this
doing
afternoon, that is, yeah.
So can you tell us just a little bit about what Sage Tribe can expect?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, like my story, how this all started for me, and then I will launch into mediumship. So it's just about going around the room, really, just seeing what spirit comes to whoever around the room. So
we're not going to miss that, are we, for the world? And we're really looking forward to that. We asked our listeners if they had any questions to put to you whilst we were talking to you today. So we do have 2 questions. The
first one is from listener Catherine Tilling. I was wondering if Claire believes anyone with dedication and effort can develop psychic powers, or if it is innate in certain individuals.
I believe that everybody has the ability. I just think, like for me, I was lucky enough for it to come naturally. So I was, obviously, you're all born with the ability to connect because you have that in you, you know, it's kind of like a switch. And as you go through your life, society kind of beats it out of us, I suppose, and you lose the hearing. For me, I was lucky when I was 14, my hearing came back on. And so I've just gradually worked with that over the years, and now it just gets stronger all the time now. For people that aren't hearing exactly, but are aware, there are tools you can have, tools you can learn about, like grounding, connecting with your guides. All of these things can help you to, develop. So definitely possible.
And how do you do you see spirit with your own eyes, or do you
I see? So I would be aware that somebody, for instance, might be standing behind you, but I would see them in my mind's eye. So I'm aware of the presence. And sometimes I feel them come in behind me, but I still see them in my mind's eye, so I get a picture of them. And I'm lucky because I can hear, see, feel and smell. So I've got like the whole package going on, which is lovely, would be lovely for you as the client, because hopefully you would get more from it. So it's about being quite descriptive. You have to be quite descriptive to people.
Can you turn it on and off if you like? Do they interrupt you when you're watching TV, or in the middle of the night?
No, because there are ground rules.
And I always think, what if you're in the shower and someone just...
I kind of think, I do think that when I'm in the shower, actually. Because I can have a chat with my guide while I'm in the shower, but it's not like I'm in the shower and they're there. It's like being on the phone and in the shower, so it's not, there are rules. But I can switch it off, so they're not on my case all night. I can sleep and stuff, so I can sort of adjust my awareness, if you like. So when I'm working. So in a minute when I go in there and do my little talk about me, and that's kind of my sign to them to say, right, I'm ready to work now. So then they will, and sometimes I don't even get to the end of what I want to talk about because they're like, start now.
So I guess it's a little bit like Facebook. So there are notifications there, but you look at them when you're ready, kind of thing.
That's
my
a
analogy.
really very good. Like it. Yes.
Can use that.
I can use that.
It's fine. So we have another question
We do.
from another listener.
If you could just have that. Right, this is from a listener called Kathy Denver. How has having this ability affected your everyday life?
That's a really good question.
Take a photo of that and send it to you.
I have 3 children and a very sceptical husband. Yes,
Wow.
who's here, this is his first experience, so he's had a really good weekend. I've kind of adjusted to it now. To begin with, I was either doing the mediumship or I was mum, wife, whatever. But now the two are sort of much more combined. So I've sort of learnt, because I'm doing readings sort of every day now, whereas I was doing them in and out before. Now, the two are combined. So it has affected my life, but in a really positive way. And now my kids will say to me, "Are you doing readings today, Mum?" Or, and my middle son, who's 12, says to me, I said, "Mum, are there any ghosts here? Like, are we in the supermarket? Like, can you see any ghosts?" So I've brought them into it as well, which has really helped me to embrace it as well. So,
Have any of your children shown signs of having the same gift?
We have a few signs. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. My son, my 12-year-old son, has shown a little bit of, should we say, early development. He'll say to me occasionally, "Oh, I've seen a lady. Did you see that lady?" And he'll describe somebody to me, but not a lot, but enough to make me think, "Oh, watch this space."
So for mums, because I'm a mum of 4, Lindsay's a mum of 2, and if our children were to come out and say, "Mummy, I saw a lady in my room, in my bedroom," or things like that, what would your advice be to a parent who doesn't understand this?
It depends on the feeling, whether the child is afraid or whether they were just chatting to the person. For me, my children are not afraid. If they see somebody, my son will seen a woman and a man, and the first thing I said to him was, "Are you afraid of them?" No, they just walk by, I just chat. The next thing I would say is nurture it. If they're not afraid, nurture it. Just don't make a massive thing of it. Just let them talk about it in their own time. Let them kind of bring it to you. But don't bang the door on it, because it's an amazing gift, you know. And we all have this gift for a reason, so we need to share it, definitely.
So it's certainly wrong for people to say that's a load of rubbish, don't believe in ghosts, there's nothing there, because if they close their minds to that, could it manifest in other ways? Could it? Some of the best validations have come from children,
because they're raw. They're a clean slate, So if a small child is saying something, then I would say, okay, so sometimes it can be imagination, and it is hard, like for us, it's quite hard to tell, isn't it? Especially in a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old. But that's why I say nurture it, and if they're talking to somebody that isn't there, see what happens, see where it goes, let them talk about it. Don't ever just shove it under the carpet, because I do think it will simmer. And if they're later on in life, if they remember seeing things and not being able to share that because an adult said, "Oh, what a load of old rubbish," it can come out in a really negative way later on in life. So
that's really important advice, I think. Because I think that we perhaps were told similar things, by adults, especially if they're very, very religious adults. They might say, "You mustn't do that. You must buy a Bible, put it in your bedroom," and that's I mean, if the interest's there, it shouldn't be stifled.
I think it's important, and I think we're lucky now these days, because spiritual awareness has grown so much, hasn't it? And as adults, there's a lot more adults that are kind of like, oh, my daughter said she saw this, or something, and get excited by it and don't kind of stamp on it. I think that's a positive thing, and it's events like this, like the Sage Paracon, that help us as adults embrace it a bit more, isn't it? And I see a lot of people, and I say to them, I feel like they're turning a corner, because we're all waking up. Everybody's just waking up to it, which I think is brilliant.
You must have some interesting conversations at the school gates, when other mums find out what your job is, because I know I do. So
I don't hang around long enough.
That's the best thing, isn't it? Yeah, I get a little bit of that too.
It did take me a long time, actually, to come out of my shell and kind of be brave about what I do. Now I don't worry about it, obviously, but and one of the places I really worried about was the playground.
Isn't that strange?
Well, parents can be like in the playground. As mums, we all know what that can be like.
Judgmental places.
Yeah, but actually, it's been really positive, and people come up to me in the playground and go, "Oh, you're Phoebe's mum. Can I book a reading with you?" I'm like, of course, just message me. So actually, on the whole, the response has been quite positive, And even the teachers at school say to me now, "Oh, how's your mediumship going?"
That's great. Do you like to, if somebody asks you for a reading and they were a personal friend or family member, does that affect, because you already know them personally, so you know their circumstances? So, for example, somebody's going through a terrible divorce and you know about it. Would you prefer not to do those readings, or do you
I would say I would prefer not to do them, because obviously if somebody wants a reading and they come to me, regardless of whether they're a close personal friend or not, I always just do my best, and I have learned to say the first thing that I hear from spirit. So while it's difficult for me, because I know you're going through that, I always say, right, I know you're going through this, but I need to give you this message. Right. So, and to be honest, if people know me that personally, they trust me and they know that I'm not going to, string them along. I'm telling them what I'm genuinely hearing. So it is. I have found it a pleasant challenge to meet people I don't know anything about, because that's the ultimate. That you want to be able to sit down in front of somebody as a medium and give them really good validation and just give them stuff. I've never met them before, so for them to walk out of here and go, wow, I heard this from my granddad or that from my granny or whatever, then that's really special. That's what I strive to do.
And the emotion that you must have to deal with on a daily basis, when you give somebody that message. I know if somebody tells us something about our dad, we in bits, and
you never know how you're going to react either. When you think, I'm going to go and have a reading from a medium, you think I'll be fine, and grown men have sat in front of me and sobbed and been so, because you just don't know how you're going to react when you get a message from somebody. You think you're going to be fine and you crumble, or not, you just it's a personal reaction, isn't it?
Very deeply personal experience.
And I feel it, I get the empathy quite a bit, and I've done readings for people and felt they're so sad for them, and it's just, if I could just go, but they're here, look, here they are, I can see them, why can't you? It really frustrates me, and it makes me so sad as well, because I lost my own dad when I was only 2, and I have felt that all my life, and my granddad when I was 14, and they both have had massive influence on me from spirit. Right. So I haven't, while I've been without them, I haven't, but at the same time I can't touch them, and I totally feel that for you guys, and I totally, for the person sitting in front of me, totally feel the loss.
It must be one of the hardest jobs to do in the world. I can't imagine how you do it. And
it's so rewarding. It's lovely. It's so lovely.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate gift, isn't it? To give somebody is comfort, peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait to to hear you talk later. Honestly, thank you for talking to us today, and I do hope you'll be coming back to Sage Paracon next year as well.
Yeah, me too. I haven't even got that far yet. Let's get this afternoon out of the way.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's been a
pleasure talking to you.
So there you go. That was our little interview with Claire Hinks, psychic medium.
Absolutely lovely lady.
She really, really was. And you know what? After that interview, we went into her demonstration of mediumship, and we got a personal reading, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Our grandma spoke to us through Claire, and she was so spookily accurate that I have got no doubt whatsoever that was our grandmother stood behind us. She described everything. She described what she looked like. She described how grandma always wore perfume, lipstick. Our grandma never went anywhere without lipstick on, did she? She was a very glamorous lady. Yeah. A cardigan she would wear, a necklace that she would wear. She described it down to a T. She described the chair she used to sit in, the blanket, the cat that used to curl up on her lap.
Yeah.
There were. We could go on, but I'm not going to give you the whole reading. But honestly, if you're looking for a psychic medium, I think Claire does do readings. We'll put the links on. Brilliant. We'll put the links on our page.
I think she does readings over Skype as well, so don't worry about distance. You don't have to be
fantastic. Yes, because I think MJ Dixon actually had her first reading with Claire via Skype.
Yes.
And she said she was absolutely blown away by the things that she was told, and there were plenty of tissues being doled out over the weekend because people had readings with Claire, and you'd see them leaving red-eyed, which is a good thing. It's comfort, isn't it, to hear from a loved one? And so it's good to have a medium that comes with recommendation, and you've got one from us because Claire is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So we'll call it a day. That's the first half of our podcast, part 1. And we will be back very shortly with part 2 of our Sage Paracon 2017 special episode. So goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
And it don't look good.